This is the Do This Sell More show, and on today's episode, we are going to talk cars, specifically car sales and how it's changed over the years. So if you haven't purchased a car in the last 3, 4, or 5 years, this is going to be an eye-opening experience for you because the whole process for how people find car dealers and connect with people who sell them cars has completely changed. And my guest today is Cody Reed. And let me tell you a little bit about Cody. Cody is an automotive general sales manager. He works for General Motors. He started in the business back in 2005. And here's the deal with Cody. He really knows the car business inside and out. He started where I started in hospitality. That's where Cody started in the automotive business. He started by washing cars, and I guess the job is what they call a lot boy. He was kind of cleaning up the parking lot. He told me he even painted the yellow lines in the parking lot and worked his way all the way up, and then started selling cars when he was 18 years old. And from there, he moved up the ladder and became the general sales manager at the dealership where he works now. He's got a sales team under him, and we're going to explore exactly how the car business has changed and what people are doing now to sell cars to folks. And I was surprised at how it works, but I shouldn't have been. But let me bring in Cody and let's start the conversation. Cody, welcome to the show and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. This is my first ever podcast, video cast. This is my first ever, so pretty exciting. Pretty exciting to do with you. It's awesome.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled to have you. So, how did you get started in this, and tell us your background and your story?
Yeah, I'm third generation in the automotive industry. I grew up around the automotive industry since my father and my grandfather and all my uncles were in the automotive industry. So I knew at a pretty early age, like, ultimately, like, this is what I'm probably going to end up doing. Took a job in high school working at the same dealership as my father. I was washing cars, picking weeds. I ran this thing, they called it the billy goat, where, like, you walk around and you pick up dirt and just any dirty job you can possibly think of. Took out the trash. That's what I did. And I knew, like, I was like, hey, man, I just got to get to age 18. As soon as I get to 18, I can get to the sales floor. I can trade my jeans in for khaki pants, and I can hit the floor at that point. So at that point, like, I was like a horse with blinders. I was just so, like, the only thing I could see at that point was me being in sales. So I grunted it out. I made it through detail. I did a short little stint as a service advisor, wrote customer pay service for them as they pulled into the service lane, which was good. But ultimately, like, I knew I wanted to be in automotive sales, and that's what I fought for, and that's where I eventually got. So,
Okay, and tell us back then. So when you started, what year was it when you started in sales?
it would have been 2000, roughly 2007.
Okay, so in 2007, what was the typical sales process like at an automotive dealership, at a car store? What was the sales process?
It was a lot of high pressure, a lot of multiple turnovers, multiple TOs. So if you couldn't close your customer, you had 5 different sales managers or team leaders that would come in to, like, just hammer them, right? Anything you could think of, like, old school car sales ways, is exactly how it was.
Okay.
So I was fortunate in a sense to be able to see that. But really, when the recession hit, what was that, 2008, 2009, something like that? Really, when the recession hit is whenever all that was pretty much a game changer, and all that pretty much stopped at that point. But yeah, it was very high pressure. It was very exciting. People were everything you can think of. That's how it was.
So your people would drive up on the lot. There'd be guys standing out front or waiting by the door to greet them, and they get them interested. They get them into the car. They get them to do a test drive, and then they bring them in, sit them at the table, make the little tee box, and talk about what they're looking for in a car. And then they get to the numbers and they turn them over to, like, the sales manager, and then they go to finance after that, and pretty much
Yeah.
that was the deal.
Yeah, I mean, when we were staying, I remember whenever I first got in, I worked at a relatively big store, and there would be 40 salespeople.
Wow,
So in the
40. Oh my
mornings,
goodness.
yeah. 40 salespeople, and in the mornings, literally all 40 of us, we were all standing outside waiting for customers. So if you had calls you had to make during the day, right? We had planners, we had to call all of our customers and follow up and all that good stuff. But first thing in the morning, like we all were out front. So that first person that pulled in, I mean, it was pretty intense, right?
All right, so talk about that's 2007. That it seems like it was just yesterday, but if you think about it, as we're recording this, we're in 2019. People are going to be listening to this for years, but this is 2019. So you're talking about 12 years ago. Talk to me today. What do you have your guys do today? Now that you're in charge, what do the guys do to sell cars today? The in dealership process is still similar, or is it different?
Yeah, I mean, you're always, anytime you're selling a product, right, you're always going to say hello. There's always going to be a negotiation and a close, and you're always going to have a goodbye. And whether that's done digitally, so hello, like a storefront on our social media pages or on our websites, to goodbye still is the same, right? You're still going to, the end result is the purchase is going to happen. So that's why I said, like, sales process-wise, we don't necessarily beat our customers up anymore with sales managers and hard sales tactics. But there's still a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what we've really done a good job with is building an experience at the very, very beginning before the customers even know about us, to get some kind of preconceived idea as far as what they're going to experience when they get to us.
Yeah, talk to me about that. What are you doing up front? How is it different? How are people finding you these days? It used to be, I remember when my parents bought their cars, and even when I first started buying cars, you would see somebody who you knew who was driving a really nice car that you liked, and you'd say, hey, where'd you get that? And they would introduce you to the guy they bought their car from. I'm sure that still happens a lot now, but brand new people who've never looked for a car before or who are looking for a different car, how do they find your dealership? How do they find you guys?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, it's still your traditional ways, right? We still have a website. We still do make cold calls, even though that's not as traditional in our dealership anymore. Most of the time, our customers are coming from social media interactions. So whether it be we as a dealership are very encouraging to self-promotion. So instead of thinking of it like, hey, I work at ABC Motors, like we are all about saying like, hey, this is Cody's dealership. Like this is your gig. The only thing that is brand around it is just the people that work in it. It's your dealership, it's your cars, it's your sales managers, it's your service department. So with all that said, our salespeople do a really good job as far as self-promoting themselves and building ads on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, making YouTube videos to where they're really in front of the people before they even get to the dealership.
So your folks are running their own ads on Facebook to make sure people are interested. Like they're taking out, so they build up their social media presence and they're reminding people, hey, look at this is me. They're doing videos. This is me at work. They're doing Facebook Live. It's Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. Here I am, and this is a car I really want to move today. And they're doing like a Facebook Live out in the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, and we encourage everything. So we have some guys that are more comfortable with voice, like podcast. We have some guys that are more comfortable with video. We have some guys that are more comfortable with writing. So they write long form emails and kind of like blog posts to their customers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's whatever's fitting for that person for that situation. I've personally embraced video, but again, I don't expect everybody to do videos either. So
tell me about the stuff that they do, the content that they produce, because we just the week before this video, I had an expert on and we interviewed her about content. We were talking specifically about professional services, but it's really interesting to me that you guys in the car business are using content to sell cars. So what types of content, like for example, I saw your YouTube channel and it's phenomenal. Why don't you tell us about the content that you're putting out and give us other examples of the content that goes out? What's your YouTube channel and what are you doing now on YouTube?
Yeah, my name's Cody Reed. So my YouTube channel is just Cody Reed. We keep it pretty simple. But in saying that, at the end of the day, it's whatever the person's comfortable with. I personally like making more of a personal touch to it. So more of, I think Gary Vee says this a lot, but more of a documentation form of style video. I think that sits really, really well with potential clients. Their watch time and everything's a lot longer that way.
Yeah.
And it's saying that it's not just so much like, hey, here's this car, I'm trying to sell it to you. It's like, hey, here's another car, and then that person, it might just hit the right chord for that day. We can tailor those ads then to the people that might be interested in the used truck or whatever, but we try to keep it really personable. And I think that's the biggest difference between us and a lot of dealerships.
Everybody I know is interested in what goes on at a car dealership. For one, there was a show on A&E years ago called King of Cars, and I was obsessed with it. My 10-year-old kid was obsessed. We watch it, when we can catch the episodes on YouTube or Hulu. We watch the old episodes. Everybody's interested in what goes on in a car store behind the scenes. So
Right.
I think like videos like that are fantastic, especially when you're educating people on the different features in a car they may want to buy.
Sure.
I can't tell you. I picked up I guess you could call it a hobby of photography through making videos and having to buy better equipment. And then I said, hey, let me see if I can use this equipment to take pictures. And now it seems like every time I watch a YouTube video on a piece of equipment and somebody gives it a positive review, I go into the store and I walk away. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to walk away with a piece of equipment that I've seen a positive review about on YouTube. So you guys are educating people on the vehicles. If somebody was already in the market for that vehicle and they see you walking them through it, it takes away that big intimidation factor. It takes away a lot of the pressure, I think. Have you experienced that in the store?
I think the video form just adds a more personable touch to it. So they can buy a car anywhere. If you're looking at a Toyota Tundra, there's 19 dealerships within 200 miles that have that same exact truck. The X factor there is what goes different prior to the sale and what goes different during and after the sale.
Yeah.
The customers expect that you're going to have all of the service after the sale. They expect the good service. So the only X factor in the whole thing then is just getting in front of them early enough to get them to like you early enough. It's no different than meeting a customer anywhere else. You're just meeting them in video form or audio form or whatever your
On Facebook Messenger or whatever. They follow you on Facebook and they message you, hey, I finally convinced my wife to let me get a truck. Can I come in and see you?
Sure. Yeah, there's nothing cooler than like a guy coming in and say, hey, I saw you over the internet this weekend. He already knows who you are. He already knows your personality. He already knows what you look like. He, aside from showing him the car, like that's a pretty good prospect.
How much do you get into pricing and finance on social media? Do you educate, because you educate people on the cars, you educate people on the buying process. How much do you get into like pricing and finance and that sort of thing when you're educating people either on social media or through blog posts and emails, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? If they don't get the information from you or from us, they're going to get the information from somewhere else. So we've done tons of long form content as far as comparing leases versus buys, 0% interest rate versus rebates. Like we've done those videos and they do relatively well. Typically those videos are like really good for after the initial impression, right? So like we meet each other, you see one of my videos, I think you might be interested, and then to have one of those videos follow back up in an ad form is very, very, very effective. But yeah, I don't think there's no sense in hiding anything anymore. It's better
Right.
to tell them everything.
So you really could take them through step by step the entire process so they know what to expect. You could take them through that, let's say on YouTube or on Facebook with video, and then they come in and that exact process unfolds right in front of them. You show them the pricing worksheet and how it works based on what they qualify for credit wise, and it's really done before they walk in. How do you, when they come in, what questions do you or the folks on your team ask to make sure they're qualified? How do you know when they're qualified?
I mean, to be honest with you, we don't make that decision anyway, right? We're not a bank. So we treat every deal the same. Whether we think we have somebody that is can afford a $105,000 Escalade or they can afford a $2,000 Honda Civic, it doesn't matter to us. Our biggest thing is when the customer gets there, we want to be consistent. So we used to do that, right? We used to sit down and be like, hey, who are you financed with now? What's your credit like? What kind of payment do you want to be at? But nowadays, again, there's just so much information out there. If it unfolds, it unfolds. We might have spent a little bit of time, but the experience that customer got from us is completely different than they get somewhere else. So when they are in a good position to buy, or when they do know somebody that can buy, then that's where the referrals come back in.
Right.
I think, in 2019, asking somebody how good their credit is before you show them a car or what their credit's like is kind of doing the whole deal an injustice, because we don't make that decision anyway. We're not the bank.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It happens a lot though.
Talk to me about exactly that. You said you mentioned referrals, and I told you that. We've bought in the last 3 years, I bought like 6 cars. So and we bought 5 of the 6 from the same guy, because he knows everything. He knows everything about me. I mean, literally everything, down to how much I make and whatnot. And I don't have to tell the story over and over again. And I just call. He's moved from one dealership to the next. He's moved from one brand over the last 10 years. He's moved from one brand to the next. And we just call him and tell him what we want. He calls us when he gets it, and we just go over and sign the paperwork. Mm-hmm. And we've referred him to, I personally have referred him to 5 people. I know my wife's referred him to a couple of people. My sister-in-law, who we bought another car for, has referred him to a bunch of people. Tell me about referrals and what you guys do to stimulate referrals, because this guy, he calls me probably, I want to say he calls me 11 out of 12 months a year just to say hi. Never asks for anything, just has a conversation with me, wants to know how the kids are doing. He had a baby, we sent him a gift, he called to thank me. He just calls to talk, and we never forget him. What do you guys do to stimulate referrals at your place?
Yeah, I think the old additive that we sell on the first one, the service department sells on the second one. So even though our primary focus, or my primary focus, is in the service or in the sales department, we leverage a lot from the service department to help us out with that. So just down to the little things like picking up customers' cars and giving them a loaner while they get their oil change done. Picking up the phone and, like you said, calling and saying happy birthday or whatever. That stuff hasn't changed. We still do all of those nice things that makes the difference. Again, I think being in front of them on a social media platform never hurts, right? They feel like, hey, I know what you did yesterday, So I think that's really helped us too. But more so just providing the same service that we always have, right? It's easy to sell the first one. It's a lot harder to keep them, to get them to come back. And that's where really having a good backbone in the service department, that all the credit goes to them, because 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles for that first oil change happens relatively quick for a lot of people. So if they're on top of it and they're calling them and saying, hey, you got an oil change due, and then they're letting us know that Mr. Smith has an oil change, and then we follow back up with them and say, hey, do you need a car for the day? Is there anything we can do to make it easier for you or whatever? That's the difference for us. So We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not reinventing with the wheel there. We don't have any special tactics for that. We just do what's always worked, as far as referrals and repeat.
And think about it too. You mentioned something at the beginning when you answered that question about being in their social media. You're the guy who sold them their car. Now you're in with their friends on their social media. And you see when they're posting life events, and you see when their kids win an award at school, and you see what's going on in their life. You're a part of the fabric of who they are. It's really easy to interact with them. So if I'm a guy working at a car store, I make sure I know all the parents in my kids' class. I make sure that everybody on the baseball team knows my name, knows who I am, and I'm connected with them all on Facebook. And we're interacting, and I'm a part of everything that goes on in their life. so I know when something's, when somebody's looking for something.
Right, exactly. I mean,
Now,
even if you don't even if you don't work it that hard, right? Like if you don't want to be an ambassador outside of the dealership, like per se, like to hustle the baseball games and all that stuff, obviously that's really good. But if you just get the contact information and get the guys that you do sell to follow you, that's over time. If you did stay at the same dealership, it just builds into something massive, you know.
sure.
And if you have the mentality that it's your dealership, right, it just gets even bigger. So the stuff that we do now, I wish I would have done, 10 years ago, because if I did, I probably, it's endless where the monetary value could be right now.
Yeah. All right, folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Cody Reed. Cody is general sales manager at a GM dealership, and he is huge on social media. If you want to check out what he's doing, I want you to go see him on YouTube. His channel is just like his name, Cody Reed. That's Cody with a C, and Reed is spelled R-E-E-D. And you can find him on YouTube. He will show you, well, he's going to show you a lot of stuff about the inside out deals that go on in a car store. Cody, let's talk a little bit about the guys or the folks that you work with. I always refer to them as guys, but some of the most effective salespeople in car dealerships are women. The folks that you work with, how do you recruit them, and what do you look for in somebody who's going to be great in car sales?
I mean, 2019, right? Before, like, not even that long ago, we said, hey, how much sales experience do you have? Have you ever sold anything? And if that answer was yes, typically you were hired, right? Nowadays, again, everything goes back to the experience. So whenever I'm doing an interview, more so I'm looking at communication skills, right? Like, hey, can we just have a conversation? And outside of that, as far as willingness to maybe push a little bit harder as far as promoting themselves. Big on self-promotion, because at the end of the day, the people that we hire, kind of how we sell it, right, is you can take this anywhere with you. You said that your guy has jumped a couple of dealerships and you stayed with him. It's no different now, So the people that I think that we can really get a good grasp on them promoting themselves, that's generally a pretty good thing for everyone.
So you really want people who are relationship people. You want them developing relationships, and basically you tell them, look, you bring your relationships into the store here, and people will find something that they like because they're coming for you. It doesn't matter, as long as it has four wheels and it moves around and doesn't break every day, they're going to be happy with it. But what they're really coming for is the relationship with you. That's what you're telling people when they walk in.
Exactly, because like we said earlier, the customers already know 95% of the time. They already know what they want before they get there. So the only reason why we wouldn't sell them is us at that point.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I'm looking for nowadays. It's not rocket science. It's not hard. We do work a lot of hours. So being effective in that all kind of goes back to social media, right? Before we called out the phone book, before we went back to the service department, which is all still, I guess, somehow effective ways of doing it, but more so, again, it just building every single day on that self brand.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So tell me, give me a couple different sales styles that you've seen, and tell me how those people get it done. So give me an example of of one way somebody does it that's really effective, and then give me another example.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no right answer to this, but as far as inside the dealership today, I think the guys there's always the guys that are going to be like the product heads, right? Like, hey, Jim knows everything about the Chevrolet Silverado or everything about the GMC Sierra, and he's kind of got that reputation, right? So he's built that for himself, and he leverages that. That's one effective way. The second, I'd say probably, I'm not going to say that's the first, but another way that's been pretty effective too is just continually doing the same thing no matter what it is every single day. So like you said, like the writing, the videos, just busting phones, just having a really set schedule is always going to be a lot better than just kind of playing loosey-goosey with it. So The success comes for those that are the most consistent. So, my guys, the ones that come in every morning, they make their phone calls early in the morning, then they work on social, then they set their appointments, and they hit the service department. Those are the guys that really do well.
So they have a process, right? They have a specific process that they've used over the years that works for them and that they've found to be, to be effective. And that leads me to kind of the last question that I have for you. And when we were getting ready for the interview, I sent this to you in an email. Tell me about people who are in a slump, right? Folks who, nobody's walked in the store asking for them in like 2 weeks. They're on social media, and everybody they reach out to on social media is going on vacation, so they don't want to buy a car, or they're buying Christmas gifts, so they don't want to buy a car. What do you do when you got a guy who is a good relationship-based sales guy, but it's just dry. He just can't get anything going?
Yeah, I think at that point, like the biggest thing that we can do in those situations as managers is just be there to help them get through it. Not let them forget about, why they're here, how they made it here, and just encourage them through that whole thing. Again, though, typically if that happens, then the consistency of the day is probably off at some point. So maybe throw in a little 2 cents, but our guys don't really get that way, again, just because we're so structured in the day, in the macro, in the moment, that every point of every day we know kind of where we stand and what we need to be doing. And for the most part, I mean, that's one benefit of not having a massive sales staff. We do a pretty good job of that, So the slumps don't quite hit us as hard because of that. But
Yeah.
if they do, we do daily manager meetings, one-on-ones, where we get together, very informal, but nothing really snowballs into anything massive because we're on each other's. We got each other's six. We got each other's back.
Yeah. Tell me, really quickly. Tell me a little bit about what how you're measured, how success is measured. The top guy in any given month, the top person in any given month. How many cars are they selling on average?
The top guy in our industry in a small store like I'm in right now is about 15.
Okay.
That would be about top out. Big stores 30, 35.
Yeah, I mean that's even 15 is a lot. That's one car every other day, and knowing what goes into the delivery of a car and what can go wrong. I mean, they bring the car around and it gets scratched because it was too close to another car or something. I mean, 30 cars, that's a car a day. That's a big deal. 15 every other day, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Just selling them's the easy part, right? So everything after, the snowball effect of that gets pretty big. But.
Yeah. Again, this is the industry is so fascinating to me. What is the post sale process that you guys use? So I drive the car off the lot today. Do I get a phone call tomorrow? Like, what happens?
Yeah, your sales guy. As soon as you leave the dealership, the second your wheels hit off the lot, you'll automatically get a text message thanking you from us if you opted in. You'll automatically get an email. You get a personal video sent to you through email as well. So phone calls. We call them back the very next day, and then after day 5, you're gonna get a phone call from our service department if you didn't meet them already. So.
Wow, that's great. And you're on YouTube. If you wanna follow Cody, he's Cody Reed, Cody with a C, Reed REED on YouTube. What about Facebook? How can people find you on Facebook?
My name on Facebook is also Cody Reed. A lot of our promotions are done through our dealer website. So that's where a lot of that's pushed at. But individually, again, it's Cody Reed all the way around.
All right, so we've been spending the last half hour talking to Cody Reed. He's given us a great window into how it works in selling cars, and if you're looking to buy a car, you've gotten kind of some insight here now. But you also got some great sales tips. So, for example, one thing that I really took away from this is the consistency of your day and how it can lead you to being not slump proof, but less likely to go into a slump. And let me tell you something. Working selling cars is rough because these guys, they don't really make a heck of a lot of money unless they sell cars. So you got to hustle every single day. And if these guys are putting a structure to their day, if they're making phone calls and building relationships, if they're going on social media and making sure they post great educational content on social media, they're writing email to people, educating them on a regular basis. If they're doing it in a car store where you used to hear people say, oh my gosh, I don't want to seem like a car salesman. Let me tell you something, folks. Car salesmen are developing relationships now. So they're the model of what we all should be doing when it comes to structuring your day. And that's one of the big things I took away from this interview. Cody, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We're going to look for you at Cody Reed on YouTube. We want to go there. We want to learn all about GMC vehicles. And I want you to message Cody on YouTube if you need a car no matter where you are, because he's going to hook you up with a really cool, look, if you're looking to buy a truck, you can't do any better than a GMC truck. I own a GMC truck myself, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So go see Cody on YouTube, Cody Reed, CodyReed. Watch his videos about cars, and you'll learn a ton. If you need a car, message him, and he'll hook you up with a dealer that's near you. Cody, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was great. Thanks for giving us some insight into how you make deals in the car business.
Thank you so much, man. It's been my pleasure.
All right, folks, that'll do it for another episode of the Do This Sell More show. We'll see you right back here next week. We're here every Thursday. We go live on Thursdays at noon on the podcast. Every place you get podcasts, you can find us. But if you want to see my smiling face, and if you want to see Cody, he's absolutely stunning. He's so much more handsome than me. Go to YouTube. Watch this episode on YouTube if you listened on the podcast. The YouTube show goes live every Thursday at noon as well. We'll see you right back here next week. Until then, here's hoping you do this and sell more.